Okay, guys, welcome to another Blimey It's Only, and have I got a fantastic guest for you tonight, or this morning, depending when you're watching it. I've got the wonderful Mr. Martyn Brown, formerly Team 17. How are you, Martyn?
I'm all right, mate. Good to have you.
And it's fantastic to have you on the channel. Massive fan of all your games, which we're going to be talking about. So just to kind of get started, Martyn, do you want to? What was your kind of earliest memory of a video game? Was it Pong at Blackpool? Was it a ZX81? When did you first become aware of computers?
I think it was. I must have been 7 or 8, and it was probably playing GB. Remember that game? Sort of a pinball type breakout mix, sort of weird. I remember seeing that, and I was just obsessed from there. And it was very pretty close after that. Was Invaders started and everything else, and I was lost to the world, really.
So that GB, was it a pinball game? Was it like a mechanical game, or was it?
If you imagine a vertical. It was pinball, but with it was like breakout as well. Was what I remember. I haven't played it for years, so I'll have to fire up MAME and have a go.
That's the wonderful thing about MAME. You've got like 10,000 games that you've never heard of.
Yeah.
I mean, I come from central Scotland, just outside Edinburgh, and growing up as a kid, there was really no arcades next to me. My mum and dad weren't fans of like seaside towns, so we never went to Blackpool or Scarborough. So my only exposure to video games was going down the M74 or the A1, probably it was back then, and we would stop for a piss, and I would get 10 pence from my mum for a quick go in Galaxian, and probably lasted about 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, I mean. It was inside the taxi rank. You used to have a few arcade machines. I mean, being in Yorkshire, it's about as far away as you can get from the coast. So, it was only a treat when we went to Blackpool or the East Coast then. So,
we used to, our kind of local town, they used to have like a community. It was during the summer holidays. They would run a bus to Blackpool. It was like £5. So me and my mate used to go down. We're like 15 years old, and you would get the bus to Blackpool, and then you were allowed to run a mock for about 5 or 6 hours, and then get the bus back up. So that was the only time I ever went to Blackpool. But it was like heaven to a 15-year-old. It was like having all these arcades. Just amazing.
Yeah, well, I don't think it's changed. Apart from the arcades all going and closing down, it's not changed much.
Sadly, there's not a video game in sight. It's just all these money grabbing, not even money grabbing machines. It's these things that you get tickets. You get 1,000 tickets, and you get like a 1 pence chew or something for it.
Yeah, not my idea of entertainment.
So the phone keeps going into sleep mode, so I'm just going to have to hold it. So apologies for not looking at the screen. So you've already answered. I was going to say, when you were growing up, did you have much of a chance to go to arcades? Was it just when you went on like family holidays and that sort of thing?
Yeah, I mean, back in sort of mid 70s and onwards, exposure to machines are very rare. So it was a treat when we ever saw one. And I think it was only when I got an Atari VCS in about 78 something that it really struck me that games could be as big as they were going to get, really.
Yeah. So what was your when you first saw like an arcade machine, Space Invaders? Was that something at that point you thought, this is the most amazing thing ever? Or
yeah, I mean, certainly, even though it's simple sound back then, it was just an amazing experience. I think I saw Tato's Space Invader for the first time on a ferry going to France. School, and on the return ferry they had a Galaxian, which is amazing.
It's quite funny actually when my daughter, I've got an 18-year-old daughter, and she doesn't know what it's like to not have video games and what have you, and it's actually hard to try and convey just what it was like back in 1978, seeing a video game for the first time, because it changed from being a passive thing, just watching TV, to suddenly you move the stick and the TV moves and you could influence what was on the TV. It was incredible.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was all fascinating. I mean, they've always been sort of leading towards the technical engine, and I don't know, just the mix of being able to create art and the sound, and it was all unique and everything was so new. It was great to be involved in it.
It was, just we were right there at the birth of the whole kind of industry.
Oh yeah, I mean, and it seemed like months before new games were coming, but it must have been every few days, really. Looking back at the arcades, it was only my own exposure to games. It was limited.
Yeah. Funny thing was, it wasn't even just new games that were coming out every day. Every other week there was a new computer coming out. I mean, I remember my mum and dad, I always wanted an Atari 2600 or VCS as we called it, and I noticed you called it that as well, because that's what it was called in Britain. I always wanted one, and my mum and dad were like, "You're not getting one. We can't afford one, so don't ask." And for quite a number of years, I always thought, how can I get £100? How can I get that £99.99 together? And it was never going to happen. And then eventually they conceded that I could get a computer. And I bought a magazine called The Home Computer Course. It's one of these things every month. They brought out another one. It was like £5, whatever it was. And they had a kind of double page, and it had about 20 computers, and the Commodore 64, the Atari 800, the Atari 400. And I remember going along thinking, I'd love the Commodore 64, but that's £400. And I said to my mum and dad, I said, "Right, we'll get you a computer for your birthday." And I said, "Can I get a Spectrum?" And they said, "Well, we'll see." That's what they always said to me, "We'll see," which basically meant no. So they decided to go to Comet. Do you remember Comet, the big?
Yeah.
They went to Comet, but for some weird reason, I wasn't allowed to go. I think because it was to have a surprise. So they went away, and they came back, and they bought me a computer, and I'm like, "I've got a Spectrum," and I opened it up, and it was a Texas TI 1994A, which, and I remember and my dad got it because he thought it looked nice. It had all the kind of the veneer, and it had the professional keyboard. I had one game for it, which was in BASIC, and it was absolutely pish.
Yeah, I remember. I started on Spectrum.
Was that your first computer, the Spectrum?
Yeah. So I got lucky, I guess.
Well, I got a part-time job after school working in the Woolworths, and the first thing I did was, that's when you could go and you could buy things on hire purchase, and I think I paid, it was £12 a month, which was virtually half my wages away, to buy this Commodore 64, and that just kind of changed everything. And here I am, a crusty 54-year-old man, still playing video games and talking about them. I've never grown up at all. So
well, same here. I'm 55. Yeah.
So, according to Wikipedia, Sorry, Martin.
I'm slightly crustier.
What I tend to do is I go into Wikipedia and I just see what kind of information I can find. So you can probably tell me, well, that's a lot of crap, because I know how much Wikipedia isn't always factual. But it says here that when you left, well, I didn't say when you left school. But in fact, before I jump to this, when you were at school, did you have any ideas about what you wanted to do? You wanted to be a policeman, an astronaut?
No, not at all. The only thing I was really interested in was computers, and used to go with a friend to computer stores in Leeds and just mess around all day and on computers. Any kind of access we could get to computers was great, because the school didn't have any computers. Actually, when I left school, they got the first computer. I didn't get a Spectrum until I was about 15. But it was 15. So for a couple of years, I sort of hung around friends and stuff that got 1K ZX81s and things, but I just didn't have quality time, I should say.
Yeah, that was the thing, though. I mean, I can't even remember timelines, but before I got a computer, there was a computer shop. I mean, I was into computers before W.H. Smith and Boots and John Menzies stock computers. You couldn't simply get computers anywhere. They weren't for sale. And then this guy opened a computer shop in my sort of local shopping centre, and he was an Italian guy, and he was an Atari stockist. And we used to go up there on a Saturday afternoon, and you would just hang about the shop, and depending on what kind of mood, if you had customers in, he would usually kind of chase you out, and if you didn't have any customers, he was quite happy for you to kind of look at them, and that's all we did. We just used to stare at them. We wouldn't let us play them. We just used to look at things like Bruce Lee and summer games, and you think, that's amazing. But
pretty much like that as well. Yeah.
Absolutely insane. So what was your kind of when you left school? What was your ambition? Did you want to?
I had no ambition. At 16, I didn't really. I just wanted to be involved in games and stuff. I didn't really have a driving ambition. I was just obsessed with computers and games and the developing technology. So. The real world sort of had to wait for a little while.
So you knew pretty early on that you were wanting to, whatever you did, you wanted to get involved with computers of some sort.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's easy to say after 30 odd years of doing it, but it all kind of happened, and you went with the flow of how everything developed, and the games developed as in the industry. I mean, there was no inkling that it would ever develop the way anything else did.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I know. I don't think anyone really saw how it would grow into. I think probably in the early days, people thought it was just a daft kind of hobby, and it's only really been since probably the PlayStation came along that people actually kind of gave it the kudos it deserved. And apparently, from what I hear on Wikipedia, the computer industry makes more money, a lot more money than any other industry, including like Hollywood and what have you.
Oh yeah. It's incredible how it's grown. Now it's become just a massively important piece of culture. Now it's and now we're not afraid to say you play games. Where it was a bit different when it was in the early teens.
I remember. So this is about you, not about me, but I tend to kind of waffle. I remember I decided I wanted to get myself a Super Nintendo after watching Games Master with like Super Mario Kart, and I remember going to, what was it called? Was it not Maplin? Well, no. What was it called? It was like Maplin. They sold all kind of electronic stuff, and I remember going there and. The guy said, "Oh, can I help you?" And I says, "I want to buy a SNES." I said, "I'm buying it for my son." I was too embarrassed to tell him it was actually for myself, which is ridiculous when you think about it.
Oh well, it's all. It's when I think about how things are today and how things were back then, it's just a world apart.
Aye, completely. So again, according to Wikipedia, Martyn, you became an employee of Microbyte. How did that come around, and what was your job with Microbyte?
Yeah, it was so Microbyte was a local video store. It's about 85. Actually, it's bloody good. Is that Wikipedia? And I started working there part time at first, and I got to know the owner because we did a Spectrum game together. And I ended up working with the owner who started Team 17 and 17-bit before that with me as well. So I went on to work with him 25 years. So, but yeah, I mean that was all part-time at college and things like that.
So what were you when you joined Microbyte? Was that a shop originally, or
yeah, it was. It was. I think at first there was a shop in Leeds, one in Wakefield. And whilst I went off to do 17-bit, which was you may mention in a while, the chain as such grew to 20 stores. It grew really massive at the time, and but I was up in a different part of the building doing 17-bit around the Amiga and stuff like that.
Right. It's funny. I miss the days of like dedicated computer shops. Now it's, I don't even know. Do you buy it? Apart from PC World, I don't think there's any kind of computer shops now. But there was something magical about going into these.
I was manager of the lead shop for 2 or 3 years, and you'd have regulars. It was more like a pub for kids. You'd have a Spectre and a 64 setup, and you'd demo the latest games every time they came in. Massive amount of excitement and sort of dwelling on what the latest releases were. I mean, it was useful in a way, seeing what games really excited people, what people were waiting for, and what features games should have or should have to sell big numbers. So that was never really thought about at the time, but it was really imperative in when we started making games, going back to those early experiences with what really drove players onwards, and the features of the game they could get excited about.
Aye. So you say, without unconsciously, that experience of working in a shop, seeing kids playing games, that actually helped you think, well, they like things like this, good graphics, amazing sound, whatever it is, type of things. Yeah.
Oh yeah. I think later on in Microbyte, we used to have an Amiga on, and we'd have demos on, and people get so excited about them. So it's pretty easy to see. In the early days of Team 17, it was making a game that looked and sounded fantastic, that could get people equally as excited as a demo.
So again, according to Wikipedia, I need to stop saying that. You joined forces with, is it Andre Tadek or is it Andreas? Apologies.
Yeah.
And Rico Holmes as well. Was Rico a programmer? Yeah, he was an artist.
So those basically started 17-bit, which was we used to sell box software, but we also used to do PD and demos and things like that. And I got involved with the community and sort of met Andreas and Rico and together with Alistair Brimble back then as well. Sort of had the idea of putting all the guys together and making a team. I'm actually going to Bunch and Gladbach with Andreas next month to
awesome.
7. So just amazing times. But yeah, that was probably about 18 months before we started with Team 17.
So you guys, you formed, can I say, Rico Holmes has got probably the coolest name ever. That's how cool would that be? What's your name, Rico?
His real name's Richard.
That's not quite got the same ring to it, has it?
Not really, no. And he's 21.
So am I right in thinking, Martyn, that you guys formed was it teams? No. So you were called. Sorry, what were you called again? Team 7.
So Rico and Andreas and Pete Tolby in Sweden called themselves Team 7N. And at the time we were 17-bit. So just sort of decided to amalgamate everything, and it was going to call Team 17.
17, yeah. So was it called that deliberately because you were one bit better than everybody else? It was like the old
bit. Yeah. We were one bit better. Well, bit better than everybody else. So it's 17 bits.
Yeah. It's a bit like the old Spinal Tap film. You've got the amplifier and it goes up to 11.
11, yeah.
So what I do. One of the videos I do on a Sunday, I have a live stream and I just play driving games or Spectrum games. Last Sunday I did Team 17 because I just wanted to kind of refresh my memory with the games, obviously in readiness for this chat. You were kind of largely credited as being like the project manager on the games.
It was sort of, I did sort of most things really at Team 17. It was a pretty small company back then, so sort of team manager, bit design, and just sort of just made sure everything went along all right, and did all the press and PR, and did that really. Apart from the actual putting discs in boxes, although I did do that. So it was still a pretty small cottage industry back then.
Yeah. And did you still kind of do any coding at all? Did you help the guys?
Not at Team 17, thank God. No, I was never good enough to step up to do code. I used to do some sort of stuff at 17-bit in the PD stuff, but I was never up to the making stuff run at 50 frames and doing the nice stuff.
Yeah. I mean, from what I can remember, sorry, I'm jumping ahead here actually. Obviously, Team 17 games were by and large they were all arcade style games. I'm assuming they're influenced by the popular arcade games of the time. Alien Breed was kind of Gauntlet, Assassin was Strider, Body Blows was obviously Street Fighter. How did the ideas for new games come about? How did you decide, right, let's bring out a Street Fighter game? How did that kind of work?
We had lots of requests from players really about the type of games they wanted to play, and also we used to spend a lot of time looking at different. I mean, we didn't really. I don't think really licensing existed in those times anyway. So we just wanted to make games like really like Project X was like a really cool R-type Salamander game. We wanted to do something similar like that. We used to take all kinds of get influence from all the best, each different genre. And we just wanted to move around doing a different game experience every time. Although we got caught up in sequels, it's like you're a victim of your own success sometimes.
Because I suppose when you actually look at for quite a small team, you did do a lot. You did a driving game, you did a pool games, you did shoot 'em ups, beat 'em ups. You were kind of doing a bit of everything. You really were.
Yeah. It's. I think if everything, as long as it was slick and it was very playable, then it interested us.
Yeah. So were all the guys, including yourself, were you primarily video gamers first?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
And that comes across. That definitely comes across. I mean, the games were. Yeah, I'm not going to kind of say it because you're on, but the games were. I don't think there was a poor Team 17 game. Even what was the very first one that I remember? Full Contact.
Yeah. Well, I think that was probably developed 6 months before Team 17 it's actually launched, and I think a lot more effort went into the intro of that, because everybody remembers that the half bright mode, there's something that Rico did actually, and it was during that we took the decision to do Project X and Alien Breed and things like that. It was sort of 1989 to 1990 is pretty formative years, and it was really exciting back then.
Who kind of decided? Was that a kind of group decision to say, right, I think we should Street Fighter 2 on the Amiga is absolutely shit, we can do much better? Was that a kind of group effort, or was it one person?
So we basically got a game idea submission by an artist called Daniel Burke, and we teamed him up with a programmer called Junior Macmillan, and the idea wasn't specifically to do a Street Fighter game, but do an arcade beat 'em up, basically. Really, the Neo Geo titles of the time. Dan was really excited by those, so it was really. But we sort of made everything. Everything had to be scrolling, had to be super smooth, had to be really slick, and the guys did a great job.
I mean, technically the games were amazing. They really were. I mean, I've just got here most, if not every game, really shone regards graphics, sound, incredible atmosphere, especially Alien Breed games. Just even the intro. I mean, when I was playing them on Sunday, there, just that you have the kind of the text coming down, and you've got the noise, and it's just really absolutely nailed it. But can I ask you, who was the lovely lady that did the Welcome to Index Systems?
Alistair's mum.
Right, okay. I was going to say the sexy lass, and I was going to say, have you got her phone number? But
it's Lynette Reed. She was called, so her acting name. So
that was Mr. Brimble's mum, was it?
Pardon?
That was Mr. Brimble's mum.
Yes.
You see Alistair Brimble, you can tell him his mum's got a lovely voice.
Yeah.
I mean, absolutely. My favourite genre game is shoot 'em ups. I love. I mean, I've got a big collection of hardware. I've got all the different computers and all that kind of stuff. I've got a PlayStation 4, but you know what? I've got a couple of name cabs in my kitchen, and if I've got a spare half an hour, I'll fire up Robotron or Defender, and I would much rather play them than play Call of Duty. Not interested.
Yeah.
Not interested at all. But Project X and Alien Breed games, they were phenomenal. But by Christ, they were difficult, weren't they? Seriously difficult.
I mean, we're a fledgling games maker, really, and looking back, we didn't really have an experienced QA, and to be honest, we thought as long as the game is good enough for us, they're good enough to go. They weren't really built to exacting standards like they are today with QA and a massive entourage of people around. We were just a small team making the game as good as we thought we could make it, really.
Yeah.
And there's good points to that, and there's bad points to that. And probably one of the weaker points is that when the game was 80% finished, our minds were 50% into the next game. So
yeah,
it was difficult and tremendously exciting at the same time.
Aye. I mean, I can imagine. I mean, I'm completely non-technical, but I can imagine actually getting the difficulty just right is very difficult, especially when you think of like 8-bit computers, because like Manic Miner, I mean, theoretically, if the games were easy, you could complete an 8-bit game in 10 minutes. So that you had to make it really difficult to kind of give the kind of customer a bit of kind of value for money.
Well, yeah, I mean, it was, arcade games were driven by the need to keep swallowing 10 pences. And we were brought up playing arcade games, and in your early 20s, the rationale wasn't about making the game as last as long as possible. It was about can you make a game that feels like the challenge of an arcade game? So that's what we did, really. And it wasn't about the longevity of play. It was make the experience everything. Really.
Yeah.
That's rightly or wrongly, that's what we did. So
yeah, Martin, can you give me 5 minutes? I've got a dog that I don't know if he's going to be sick. I don't know if he's needing a pee or what. Just give me 5 minutes, buddy.
No problem, mate.
Right, cheers. Right, come on. Hurry up. Smash it. Moving on. The Body Blows franchise obviously really proved that the Amiga was capable of putting out a decent brawler. I mean, it was only one joystick, one fire button. Whose idea was it to do a kind of one-on-one fighter? Was it just...
I think we just received a game idea from Danny, and we just thought, yeah, great, let's do it. We like the look of his art. We knew a programmer as well, was wanting to get involved, and it just worked. You know, Danny and Junior, it just the pair of them did the whole game, all the characters. And it was really good. So, I mean, it helped really a great deal that on the Amiga, the official licenses were a bit shit. And I think the timing, there was a lot of fuss about Street Fighter. So to come out with Body Blows when we did, it was never planned that way, but it worked out well for us.
Aye. I mean, I think there was Body Blows Galactic. Was that the third one, I think, was it?
Yeah.
What was the second one called? Body Blows 2, was it?
Well, we did Body Blows Galactic. Then we did a mix of both of them in one.
Was it the CD32 you did one for? Didn't
you?
Yeah. You're getting licked to death, I see.
Getting a copy of the Chihuahua.
I've got to say, whilst I was saying earlier on about I love shoot 'em ups and that kind of stuff. I mean, my favourite, by a country mile, my favourite Team 17 game had to be Arcade Pool. That was just brilliant. I mean, it was looking at it now, it's quite a simplistic game. It played so well that I don't know whose idea it was to kind of to have like you could have up to like something like 32 computer opponents and the best bit, the icing on the cake, and it was a pure genius, was whoever decided to put the pub sound effects in the background.
Yeah,
as if you were in a pub. That was brilliant.
Yeah. That's a pub atmosphere.
You need to, did you never copyright that at all?
No. Because I used to frequent pubs and stuff, so I thought it'd be really good to put some pub sound effects in there. I mean, Team 17 at the time, one of the first decisions are made was to make all the games 1 meg and use the extra 512K in sound, really. So immediately the Team 17 games sounded far better than any other games, and anybody on Amiga had a 1 meg Amiga. So
I always felt like when it came up and Hans chipset found, you're like, oh, I'm going to get the best version.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, we were such massive Amiga fans that doing it as good as possible. Raise the bar way above anything else, and do fill every byte of memory and sound as good as it can be. Because we all just want everything to be great. So
to be perfect, yeah. I mean, I think you'll take this as a what's the word for it? Team 17 and the Bitmap brothers were like, to my mind, they were, and I would put Sensible Software into the mix as well. They were just a cut above the rest. They were just,
Yeah, I mean, there were obviously 4 or 5 really talented groups doing games at the same time, and the press used to make a bit of a thing about it, of the Team 17, the Bitmap brothers and stuff. But it was all anonymous. We always used to get together and have beer and stuff. So,
did you have any much of a kind? Did you actually mix with these guys at all? Did you meet them?
Did what? Sorry.
Did you actually did you socialise with these guys at all?
Yeah, we should occasionally see each other at the shows and events and stuff back then. I mean, it wasn't as prevalent as it is today with social media and stuff. But when you got to know people, we'd see each other for drinks at different show and stuff like that. Really, so most really good guys and still really good friends today.
So was there hot tubs and girls at some of the Team 17 things then, was it?
What's that?
Was it hot tubs and girls and drugs and what have you?
Well, I wasn't involved. Watch give me a fair share of drinking.
Yeah. Obviously, there was, I think, what they called Psionic Systems. You published some games like Assassin, Overdrive, Super Stardust. How did that kind of come about then?
Basically, two guys from Creations Software. Dave Broadhurst did Bubble. Oh, I can't say it. Bubble on Amiga, which was a really good port. And he got him together with Hayden Dalton, both guys from Oldham, and taking the sort of arcade influence for Assassin. We was very heavily influenced by Strider, so that's how that started. And Overdrive just from over the top.
Yeah.
Stardust. I mean that was first game by a Finnish team Housemark, so we've done on to be pretty good. So that was obviously rendered asteroids.
It was stunning looking. I mean, even now, I was playing it on Sunday, and even now, it still plays fantastic. Back in 1993, it was absolutely mind blowing.
Yeah, I mean, they've always been a super technical team of Housemark, and just everything they do is oozes class.
Yeah. Is that the budgie kicking off now? I can hear.
That's my cockatiel called. And he's just decided to be noisy now.
Does he talk at all?
No, he wolf whistles. He's only young. He's only 4 months, but and I can't whistle, so I don't know where he's picked up wolf whistling from.
Obviously, we can't have a chat about Team 17 and not mention a certain Worm. Am I right in thinking that the whole Worms kind of game, that was based on an early Amiga game called Artillery, coded by Andy Davidson, and apparently showed you guys it at a computer show. Was that?
Yeah. It's at all the shows and stuff, particularly in 94, 95. A lot of people used to bring demos and things and ideas for games on the floppies and stuff like this. And Andy brought a very, very early version of Worms he'd been working on for like 3 or 4 years.
Really?
For him and his friends to play. God, shut up! And just really fell in love with Worms and just the idea of it and really how playable it was. And initially we signed it to be to appear on our budget label, but after playing it for weeks and weeks non-stop, we felt it was only right to launch it full. And we entered into a big publishing agreement with Ocean back then, and it became a massive hit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, so was it kind of from 1995? That's when you started publishing games through. So you self-published prior to 1995. Yeah. What was the reason you wanted to start? Why did you want Ocean to publish the games?
It was multi-format, really. I mean, we'd been very strong on Amiga. At about 95, it was a sort of, the evening song of the Amiga. It was sort of the Commodore in a bit of a mess, and it wasn't going anywhere fast. And really, it was having the publishing agreement with Ocean was being able to get the games on multiple formats and on consoles, and bring all that publishing weight to game. Because I mean, Team 17 were a small scale developer, a small independent publisher, and Ocean were a big organisation with reach.
Yeah. So as you say, obviously the Amiga, it was like the death. Well, we're probably going to upset a lot of people with saying this, but the death knell kind of started to ring about 95, 96, and at that point you thought you need to start.
Very sad at the time it was doing, and it was a victim of its own success in that really the piracy on Amiga was getting so great that titles you'd launch wouldn't do that much sales really, so it had to look for other formats to put your games on really.
The irony being things like the Sony PlayStation, within about 6 months of it coming out, there used to be a massive open air market in Edinburgh called Ingliston Market. I think it was the biggest European open air market. Within about 6 months of the PlayStation coming out, everybody and their granny were selling pirate copies of the PlayStation games. It was just
that became an industry in itself, So, really working with Ocean, all the publishing headaches were borne by them, really, not so. Unfortunately, when it was a hit, it was a big hit. So it's allowed aspects like piracy to just be a small itch rather than losing a leg. It was irritating at the time, but not nearly as much as it was on Amiga, for example.
Yeah, of course. So, can you looking at the sort of like the games that Team 17 put out after 95? It was pretty much just kind of updates on the Worms franchise, wasn't it? And then I think you started to release.
It was difficult because really after 96, 97, Ocean sold to Infogrames, which Infogrames seemed to be buying everybody at the time, and really Team 17 went through a period of offering new games to publishers, and really publishers not being that interested in anything but hearing about Worms and what else we're doing about, and you couldn't get your foot in the door without promising another Worms games. So he's just a victim of it being a success and people wanting to repeat it.
Did you personally get to a point where you almost started to resent the game Worms, or were you happy the fact that it was a bit of a cash cow for you guys?
We just sort of kept his head down and we kept it interesting for ourselves, coming up with worthwhile new game features and ways to take it. I mean, the internet didn't exist then, so when it went online and made it playable all across the world, actually on a turn-based game, in very early internet, that was really exciting because nobody had played games like that before, so that was good. But we did do a lot of Earth games. There's no getting about it, but it wasn't really until digital publishing came around where Team 17 could once again publish their own games without it needing to be a Worms game.
It's funny. I was when I was at work today, I was telling one of the guys, he's a lot younger than me, I was going to be talking to yourself, and he says, he says, I'm not into computer games at all now, he says, but see that, I can't remember what one it was the Worms in the PlayStation or something. He says, him and his two mates, he says, they played it religiously, and he said they were absolutely shit hot at the game. They were like, they played it intensely. He says, that was one of my favourite Amiga games ever. I don't think it was on the PlayStation, but
Well, we hear from so many people. It got them through college, through university.
Yeah.
It was so playable. You get in a small league with friends, and you just spend ages playing it. When we first took it online on the net, I was playing forever, basically. Trying to balance it and play it online. So
yeah. Awesome. So again, according to Wikipedia, Martyn, you left Team 17 in 2011. Was that following a sort of like internal restructure type thing?
I'd been there 20 years. There was a restructure of the company, and I fancied doing something myself, really. Things had changed, particularly from the Amiga times, and I felt it was right for me to move on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Do you have any regrets about leaving when you did? Or?
Not really. I mean, I'm still, very, very, very good friends with all the developers. 20 years is a long time at one company.
Yeah.
And I'd got lots of ideas and opportunities to work with other people, and I had a great time doing that. So I don't really regret anything, So obviously, you can look at Team 17 now and look at the balance of the company, and it being pretty high, and I don't really regret leaving. So. It's good luck to them. So
yeah, no, definitely. Probably. So, what are you up to now at the moment? What are you up to job wise these days? Then?
Well, I when I left, I started a consultancy in 2014. I worked with a few different developers, arranging deals and helping them grow the companies and things like that. And in 2016, I started working with a game called New Star Soccer.
New Star Soccer, is that on the phone?
Mobile game, yeah. So
yeah, and that's the one where you play as a player, and you just you go like that and you point where you want to hit the ball.
Yeah, it's been a massive success. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. I remember, I don't really play games on my phone, but I remember I found it on the Play Store, whatever it's called, and that was responsible for me taking more toilet breaks than ever. I would sit in the toilet and I'd be going, I'll just play 3 or 4 games. And I remember I was utterly hooked in this game, and I told a few people about it. And that's the best game ever. That is phenomenal. And you buy like Lucasade and it gives you a wee boost. That's a brilliant game.
Well, I'd like to say I designed it, but I didn't. The game is down to the genius of Simon Reed, who's gone on to do quite a few other games. But we're working the small team that I work with now. Work with Simon, and we've done cricket. We've done American football, retro ball, which was number 1 in the States on iPhone. So for quite a while as well, actually. Mm-hmm. And that's still an awful lot of success to be around a mobile phone. So,
what was the cricket game? What was it called again? The cricket one?
We did New Star Cricket. So
again, being Scottish, I've got absolutely zero interest in cricket. I mean, what? How can you call it a sport when you stop to have a cup of tea? I mean, seriously. But somebody told me about that game, And again, it was brilliant. You know, it was like, you made it arcade-like, and you didn't have to be interested in cricket to enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I suppose that's where Sensible Soccer did that with the football game. I'm not interested in football at all. Obviously, being Scottish, you know, why would I? But yeah, Sensible Soccer was one of the best games ever.
Well, yeah, it's. I mean, I'm pretty good friends with John Hare, and that was just a great game as well. You know, both on the Amiga at the same time. So I'm a football fan. So you know, big Leeds fan with our Scottish heritage, Billy Bremer and such. So
I actually did one of these with John here. When was it? November, and he said, I've got an hour." And I said, "That's great. We'll crack on." An hour and a half later, we hadn't even done question 2, and it was when England were playing. It was in Euro, whenever it was last year. And he said, "Listen, do you want to? We'll tie up a couple of days later." It ended up turning into a 6-hour thing, and I ended up saying to him, "Listen, John, I'll need to go." Cracking lad. I've never had the privilege of meeting John in like real life, but he's a lovely guy, and it's like yourself. It's absolutely insane. I'm one of these people. I go on about. I hate the internet. I hate social media. I hate these things with a passion because they've killed society. But without the internet, I couldn't be doing this. You know what I mean? It's brilliant.
Well, I mean, it's just today. I mean, you know, again, I would never have thought when we were first started games that people were carrying around a device capable of, or equally, like, I guess, equivalent of PlayStation 3 or 4 in your hand, fully connected to everybody else in the world. I mean, it's quite difficult to develop mobile games that engage everybody of every culture. You know, we've concentrated on sports games because it's what we do, it's what we love. Really, I mean, we don't really expect people to play arcade style games on the phone. It's much more well. So
yeah, I have to say though, I did buy Alien Breed for my phone probably about 10 years ago, and it actually played really well. I'm not a fan of the floating joystick, but then that's the only way you can possibly play it. But it actually looked and played pretty well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it took a few years for traditional games developers to get used to how to put games on mobile phones and how people want to play them, because people want to play them just like they did on computers or arcades initially, but it took a while to put them on there with a great deal of sympathy for the medium, really. So it took a while. Bloody hell!
He likes to run on anyway. So listen, man, that's me kind of finished, but I've got a couple of the guys that watch my channel came up with a couple of questions, if you don't mind me asking them.
No problem.
First one is from 8-Bit Steve. He's asking who came up with the great idea of 17-bit software, that bit better than the rest.
That's me, I'm afraid.
Was it? Oh, there you go, fantastic. Secondly, Colin Gregory is saying Super Frog was a great game. Why a frog?
Rico did some animations of a frog doing an unspeakable act, and the idea sort of grew from there. Really, I mean, initially we had an animation of him drinking a Newcastle Brown, and it was fully intended to make it into a game where the frog needed to drink Newcastle Brown, but we got talked out of that.
Were they going to sponsor you, per chance? No.
No, we actually we're trying to get the actors from our Vidisame pet because the frog voiced in Geordie accent.
Awesome. And the very last one from Cauldron of Stardust. A lawsuit between Team 17 and Amiga Power. How did that come about, and did it affect sales of Team 17 games? I wasn't aware of that. What was that all about?
Well, I think it was just hijinks between early 20s kids, really, just being stupid. Looking back, I mean, I did a few things I shouldn't be proud of, but did anyway. So I don't know. I don't know how it started. So yeah, it's a bit weird, all that.
Yeah. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember Amiga Power, or a reviewer called Stuart Campbell.
Yeah.
He was in the same class as my mate at school, and Stuart used to live about 4 miles that way. So I don't know. I think he's into his politics and independence and all that kind of stuff now. But
Yeah.
I mean, he was outspoken. I have to say, he was probably my favourite journalist. He just, anytime he said a game was good, you absolutely knew it was going to be fantastic. He was rarely wrong.
He's very strong-minded, and I think we were at the time. When you get a mixture of strong-minded people, there's always fallouts.
Even if he did have a completely naff haircut, he had that really ridiculous little thing on his head, whatever that was. But listen, on that bombshell, Martyn, I'm going to let you go. So I just want to say a massive, massive thank you for taking time to talk to me on my little channel. I will see you in 4 weeks' time.
Yes, mate.
At least I've had a little kind of rehearsal anyway. So so thanks for coming on, Martyn. I just want to thank everybody for watching it. Until next time, guys, thank you. Take care. I'll see you later.